Now then, this is quite a long and convoluted tale about batteries, and it starts off years ago when we were messing with forklift batteries that had got welded terminals, and they can be, those are the only ones we had, and they can be a bit difficult, and you can also induce a lot of corrosion into the system. So I had to find ways around that. Then a while ago I was down the scrapyard and I came up with a shortish piece of fairly thick wall lead pipe, and I thought, I know what that is. That is battery terminals in the weighting. So there was that, and the next bit of this tale is that Lee Rose, who you will have met in one of the solar panel investigation videos, brought me a couple of lead acid electric vehicle 200 amp hour 6-volt batteries, and they've obviously had, we'll see this later, they've had welded terminals. And you've seen in other videos where if you get a bit of corrosion into the lead, the copper cabling on welded terminals, or even on the bolt-on ones, then you know it's fine cabling. It's not big, heavy-duty, thick conductors. It's very fine cable, thin strands, but loads of them. The corrosion gets in there and destroys them. So you've seen that before. So then the last thing is Michael Ansell emailed me or made a comment on the last video, I think, asking about repairing battery terminals. The last thing of this was when I was at Uncle Harold's helping to tidy his shed, I came across some carbon rods in amongst the arc welding rods, and instantly I went, I know what those can get used for. So let's just zoom in. We've got a whole combination of factors that bring this video together. We'll zoom in and I'll show you what I mean. So here's one of those batteries, and as you can see, focus, there we go. See how this is all starting to go blue? Yeah. So you wouldn't get a good connection on that. And previously what I've done is drilled a hole through there and put a stainless steel bolt in and a lead strap. And that sort of works, but you still get corrosion building up there. And I did have some big chloride, huge 2-volt cells, and they were proper storage batteries, and they had a big tab coming up to about here, quite thick with a hole through it, and they were good, very good. So obviously we can't connect to this battery in the standard way. And there is some lead pipe, and you can see how thick the lead is, but it doesn't take much to beat this flat. So drill a hole in there, cut it off, and then I'll show you how to carbon arc weld this together. You see there was a split there, so I've got to use that bit and then from there onwards, but it's easy enough to flatten out. Just make sure it's nice and clean. You've got to be careful of lead dust though. That's why I'm not using a grinder on this. There we go. Let's just clean up that top. Okay, I better just wire brush that. There we go, that's clean for the contact. That's not quite square, so let's just square that up. That's better. Right, here we go. This is the pack that came from Reynolds, and these are the carbon rods. You see that's carbon there, and it's got a thin copper or brass coating just to give it strength. Marvellous, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, a lot of people would have thrown these away. Okay, let's set things up. Okay, so I've got a heavy duty jump lead here. So that goes on, doesn't matter which terminal, but the opposite terminal. Okay, so there we've got a carbon rod. Now you don't need welding goggles or anything, because as you will see, it's really quite... I'm putting a little bit of plumber's flux on there. I don't know whether it's necessary or not, but I'm doing it anyway. Okay, there we go. And there we go. Paying attention? I think we need to zoom down on that, don't you? Okay, so what I want to do, I just want to tack this other side. Are we still in shot? Yes, we are. So we're using 6 volts here. Can you see the end of that carbon glowing? Now, what I want to do is tip the battery. So the battery's got to be in reasonable condition, and it would have to be anyway, or else it would point us doing this. But if you wanted to weld onto that, and you wanted to use an external supply, you would have to put another 6 or 8 volts here and bring the end terminal to there, if that makes any sense. Right, let's just adjust the camera. I've wedged that battery up at an angle. put a bit of flux on here. As I say, I'm not quite sure whether it's needed, but and this is plumber's solder. Be interested to see how many amps is flowing through that. Let's get the clamp meter. Okay. Hopefully you can see all that lot. Yep. About 100 amps probably. But it's not continuous. Oh, might be a lot more. I'll only see that when I'm actually editing the video. So now I need to do the other side of that. So let's get rid of this clamp meter. But it's got to be low voltage. As you can see, that is quite a sedate and steady process. If you had higher voltage, it would just burn away. So let's do the other side. So we just need to wedge up there like that. Okay, that's good. Put a bit of flux on there. Contact. This is getting mighty warm. So as you can see, you know, it's not rocket science. There's probably some art in getting it absolutely smooth, but I suspect I will just go over it with a file. There we go. So I'm just going to do this other one. Now, I appreciate lead pipe is not as obtainable as it used to be. So what you can do instead, and this is quite easy, is get some offcuts of roofer's lead, yeah, from down the scrapyard, yeah, and cut it into small strips and just set up a little gas stove or some heating surface, but a gas stove will work well. And all you want is a bean tin and some sort of handle on it or something like that, and you just put the strips of lead in there, and they will melt. yeah, and then you just pour it into a suitable mould and you can get a thicker piece than that. The only thing you got to be careful of is wear PPE, gloves, face shield, mask. Do it in a well ventilated area, and the mould that you make has got to be absolutely dry, or else you'll get spatters of molten lead everywhere. And one of those in your eye would not be entertaining at all. But you can make your own like that. You see, you can cast your own, and it's not, again, it's not rocket science. So here we go. We're putting that there in line with the battery, and I'm just tacking it in place. And then build it up with solder, plumber's solder. Well, I suppose you could use stick solder as well. Don't want to use electrical solder because it's very thin and you'd end up using far too much of it. But hopefully you understand the whole theory of you can cast your own bits of lead with the appropriate precautions. Let that cool down a minute. That's pretty good. I'll do the other side and then clean them up. So I've cleaned that up a bit and I've put some flux on the top, and because this is pipe squashed together, I am just going to try and seal. And there's an aeroplane. Would you credit it? So I'm just trying to seal the top of that up. It doesn't want to. Let's get a bit of flux there. There we go. Perfect. So there you go, Michael. It's not difficult. Having seen it, then you'll be able to apply the basic principles. And of course, Michael is in the enviable position of having wind, solar, and hydro generation. So his batteries are vitally important to the whole system. Hopefully, everybody else has enjoyed this, and let's have some comments. For new viewers, please subscribe, and also usual thing, please click the like just to keep the figures rolling nicely. Catch up with you soon. Cheers for now. And another aeroplane.